The people who hurt you the most are rarely the ones you expected to fear. They are the ones you trusted without hesitation, the ones you defended when others doubted them, and the ones you believed would never change. Yet, in life, there comes a moment when everything you thought you understood about them collapses at once, not because they became someone else, but because something finally forced them to stop hiding who they already were. And what makes this realization so painful is not the betrayal itself, but the silence that follows it. That moment where your mind keeps replaying everything you once believed, trying to find the exact point where you missed the truth. And eventually, one question becomes impossible to ignore. How did I not see this before? The uncomfortable answer is simple. You were never meant to see it in normal conditions. Most people do not reveal their true character when life is stable and predictable. In those moments, almost everyone knows how to behave. We learn how to be liked, how to avoid conflict, how to say the right things at the right time, and how to maintain a version of ourselves that feels acceptable to others. Over time, this becomes automatic, almost invisible, like a second identity we wear without noticing. But beneath every version we present to the world, there is something far more permanent, something slower, something harder to control. That is character. And character does not reveal itself when life is comfortable. It only becomes visible when pretending stops offering any advantage. This is why some of the most painful experiences in life do not come from strangers, but from people we believed we already understood. We assume time guarantees truth. We assume familiarity equals clarity. We assume consistency means understanding. But life repeatedly proves otherwise. People can remain stable for years, only to appear completely different when circumstances change. And in those moments, it feels like change has occurred, when, in reality, something hidden has simply been exposed. Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli observed this same pattern. While studying human behavior in a world where power and survival were deeply connected, he watched leaders rise with promises of loyalty, only to abandon those promises the moment they were no longer necessary. He watched friendships collapse, not through hatred, but through opportunity, quietly reshaping priorities. And through this, he came to a conclusion most people never accept. Human beings do not reveal who they are through words. When everything is under control, they reveal who they are. When control disappears. And according to his observations, there are 3 moments in life that strip away every mask a person wears. Moments so ordinary that most people never notice them. But in those moments, character becomes visible, and once you see it clearly, you can never unsee it again. Part 1. Power. The first of these moments begins the instant someone is given power. Power has always been misunderstood. Most people believe it transforms individuals, as if authority itself changes who we are. We often say, power corrupts. But Machiavelli's view was far more unsettling. Power does not create a new personality. It removes the pressure that forces a personality to hide. When someone depends on others for approval, survival, or opportunity, they naturally adjust their behavior. They become patient, Because impatience has consequences. They become polite. Because hostility creates distance. They become controlled. Because mistakes have a cost. In that sense, what we call good behavior is often not morality, but adaptation. But when that dependence disappears, something shifts. A person who no longer needs approval, no longer feels the same pressure to maintain the image that once protected them. What was once controlled becomes optional. What was once hidden slowly begins to surface. This is why power does not change people. It reveals them. If you want to understand someone, do not watch how they treat those above them. Almost anyone can be respectful when there is something to gain. Instead, watch how they treat those who can offer them nothing. The waiter, the cleaner, the assistant, the stranger. These moments reveal more about character than any speech ever could. History repeats this pattern constantly. People rise, speaking about justice, fairness, and equality, only to abandon those ideas once they are no longer necessary for survival. Not because they changed, but because they no longer needed to pretend. Power is like light entering a dark room. It does not create what is there. It reveals what was already present. But even power is not the deepest test, because some people remain stable when they gain control, only to break when something else collapses. And that is where the second truth begins. Part 2. Failure. Failure has a way of removing everything unnecessary from a person's identity. Success allows performance. It allows control over perception. It allows people to hide insecurity behind achievement. But failure removes the stage entirely. No audience. No validation. No illusion of control. And in that space, something more honest begins to appear. Some people reflect. They turn inward. They search for responsibility, even when it is uncomfortable. Others do the opposite. They shift blame outward immediately, because the weight of responsibility feels unbearable. Same event, different character. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He believed fortune is always changing, and because of that, human nature is always being tested. Failure reveals emotional maturity. It shows whether someone can hold responsibility without collapsing into denial. It shows whether they can face their mistakes without becoming defensive. And most importantly, it shows whether their identity is strong enough to survive disappointment. Some people grow stronger after failure. They become more disciplined, more aware, more grounded. But others become bitter. They begin to see the world as something against them. And once that perception changes, character follows. Failure is not just an event. It is a mirror. And in that mirror, people see who they become when nothing is left to protect them. But even failure is not the final test, because there is one more force that quietly exposes human priorities, and most people never notice it happening. Part 3. Money. Money does not change values. It reveals priorities. When survival is no longer the main concern, human behavior shifts from necessity to choice. And in choice, character becomes visible. Some people choose loyalty, even when it costs them something. Others choose advantage, even when it breaks something important. And many move between both, depending on circumstance. What makes this test so subtle is that it rarely feels dramatic. There is no single moment of change, only small decisions that seem harmless alone. But together, they form a pattern, a promise slightly adjusted, a truth slightly softened, a commitment quietly reworked. Individually, they feel insignificant, but collectively, they reveal everything. Because at some point, every person is answering a silent question. What matters more, my principle or my advantage? And the answer is never spoken, but always shown. Most people try to understand others through words, through promises, through intentions, but none of these are stable. They shift depending on circumstance. What remains consistent are decisions made when nothing forces them. Power reveals behavior under freedom. Failure reveals behavior under loss. Money reveals behavior under choice. Once you understand this, you stop being surprised by people, not because you expect less from them, but because you finally see them clearly. And, in the end, the greatest mistake is not trusting people. It is trusting the wrong signals about who they are. And once you learn to read those signals correctly, you stop discovering people too late and start understanding them in time.